Yes,
it's recording now.
Hi everyone, welcome to our Espace Tricot number 6 podcast. I'm Lisa.
I'm Sean.
I'm Gianluca.
I'm Tristan.
I'm Melissa.
Johannes.
So we've got our whole gang here, the board of directors of Espace Tricot, that have come to say hi to everyone. And we're visiting Melissa, Johannes, and Tristan for the weekend. We've had a fabulous weekend. And now the boys are all off to the city for an exciting day while we film our podcast. So we just thought we'd introduce everybody to you and
Espace Tricot gang.
That's
support staff.
The support staff.
This
Exactly.
will be the podcast with the greatest amount of views.
For the first 20 seconds.
Exactly. So that's it. They're off, and have a great day, guys.
Bye.
Hi there. Hey, we're back. Podcast number 6. We just sent the boys off to the city.
Yeah, so we collected our thoughts and got ourselves ready for recording.
Yeah, back at our usual spot.
Yeah, struggled with our lighting a little bit, but I think we're good.
It's the best it's gonna be.
It's the best it's going to be today.
Exactly.
So, as Lisa said, it is podcast episode number 6. Lisa and her family are here with us this weekend, so we're able to do it together, which is always nicer than doing it split screen. We have lots to cover today. We actually have some finished objects. Quite a few, I think, right?
Yeah, I think so.
So just to back up, we are Melissa and Lisa from Espace Tricot. We're a Montreal web store.
We are a web store, but
Yeah.
also a real store.
An
brick and
online
mortar.
web store and a Montreal yarn shop. We've been open for about 6.5 years. Then we decided, I guess back in December, to try our hand at a podcast. And so we're 6 episodes in, and we're having fun with it.
Yeah, it's lots of fun, and we're getting lots of great feedback, and we're just motivating us to keep on going.
Yeah, so welcome everybody, and if you're here to see us again, we appreciate you coming back, and if you if this is your first time tuning in and sharing some time with us, then great, welcome.
Yeah, so that's a little intro, and we want to, I think, follow up on our winners for our knit-alongs, right, Melissa?
Okay.
We've had a couple of winners.
Yeah, we've had, so we'll do all our administrative stuff first. So we had, we've run 2 knit-alongs. The first one was the Ohm Shawl knit-along, and that just wrapped up March 2nd. I think we drew for our winners on March 9th. And so...
No, we drew our winners, I think, right away on March 2nd, remember? Because we had to get the Arbor skeins out to them. So
that was the different knit-along.
We did both, though. We
on
pulled,
the same day.
Yeah, we pulled on the same day, remember?
Okay, so the Ohm Shawl knit-along wrapped up at the end of February, I guess, and we pulled... Okay, so we opened it...
It's so hilarious because Melissa and I were just having this discussion about our mind and our memory.
Terrible.
Starting to go.
Anyway, so we have drawn the winner for the Ohm Shawl knit-along. They have been notified, and they're very happy. At the same time, we also, I think in our last episode, we announced the Brooklyn Tweed High Pines cowl knit-along, and what we suggested is that people go and announce their intention to participate in that knit-along on our Ravelry thread, and then you would be eligible for a giveaway for 3 skeins of the Brooklyn Tweed Arbor yarn, which is what that cowl requires. So we let that winner know on March 2nd, so hopefully they received their yarn in time. They were also very happy.
Yeah. Who wouldn't be happy,
exactly,
winning
right?
lots of beautiful yarn. So that High Pines cowl started, as Melissa mentioned, March 9th. And it goes on to the 16th and the 23rd.
Right. So then we will open a finished object thread in the Ravelry group, so people can submit their finished object pictures and be eligible for another draw for prize for that knit-along, and that will be the Hedgehog Fibers Invisible Project Bag.
And that's going to be March 30th. We're going to close that thread, and we're going to draw the name on that date. So that's it.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. So those are our giveaways and our knit-along announcements. And we also just want to make a little announcement that we had an audio interview for the Sweet Georgia Yarns podcast, and that's run by Felicia Lowe, who owns the company, and she approached us and asked us if she could interview us because she was doing a little segment about yarn shop owners and wanted to get a little bit more of a feel of what it's like to own a yarn shop. And it was really fun.
It was fun, and we recorded that right after we recorded our last podcast, right?
The same day, that afternoon.
Exactly. So, and then it aired on February 28th. So that should be, that'll be, I guess, live indefinitely on Sweet Georgia's website. She has a podcast page, so you can go and tune in and see, hear all about our reflections. It was an audio podcast. You said it was audio only, right? So it's just, we found that a little bit easier than doing the video podcast. But,
and it was, I was in Montreal, Melissa was in New Jersey, and Felicia's in Vancouver. So we were 3 of us in different cities. But it was pretty smooth, actually, and we felt that it was a little bit easier to reflect. I guess when you're not looking at an image, you're more in your mind and you can think, and so it was...
Because this whole thing is very distracting.
Yeah, right? It is. Because you're like looking at yourself, looking at each other, looking at the background. But the audio podcast, it really allows you to just be with your thoughts and reflect on that. And it was really nice because it sort of gives you a little bit of an insider's view about running a business. The way question she was asking us was really reflecting on our business.
How we started, where we felt the industry had changed since we had opened, and where we thought it was headed, and so we had some thoughts about that.
Yeah, we were surprised that we had some thoughts. We're like, it was really nice. It really
it's not. They aren't things that we typically sort of discuss and reflect on, and I think it made us think, and actually helped us focus a little bit on our, how we want to take things.
Yeah, because she asked us sort of how we got to where we were and where our next step was and where we thought we were going and how that connected to the knitting community. So it was really interesting.
It's kind of funny. She said, what's happening? What's your vision? What's your plan for 2017? which always makes us laugh because Lisa and I have never had a plan. We never plan. We just sort of fly by the seat of our pants. We have sort of a framework, I guess, and we have an idea about the kinds of things we'd like to do going forward, but we never have an actual vision, the 1-year plan or a 5-year plan or even a seasonal plan.
No, even a 6-month plan. It's sort of like whoever thinks of it first says, okay, well, what are we doing for the next 2-3 months? And then we're like, oh, okay, let's talk about it.
So far, but I wonder if it made us think that perhaps we should have a plan that we write down.
It's interesting. I guess we've relied a lot on our instinct of when it's time to move forward. And I think, too, the first 6 years of our business, we're really just trying to survive and trying to keep up and trying to grow. And that now maybe we're in that space where we can be in the planning now that we've kind of have our head above water.
Yeah.
So and maybe that was
and be a little bit more strategic.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. So we did that, and then our second interview was with Christy Glass.
So that's part of the reason that Lisa and her family came down this weekend, is we had an interview scheduled with Christy Glass of Christy Glass Knits, and we haven't checked out her channel yet. It's great. It's full of knitting content. Lots of great interviews with I like to refer to it as the knitterati, not that I put us in that category, but lots of great interviews, lots of great reflections on the knitting scene, and Christy shares a lot of the projects that she's working on, and so it's fun. It's a fun.
It is a fun podcast to watch, and she does a lot of she's walking down the street and holding her camera,
and you might know her actually because she did the Rhinebeck sweater. Vlog, I guess, last October. So
and it was pretty snowy and windy.
Yeah, and so when we headed up there on Friday, it was not at all spring-like, but it was a very warm environment. It was fun talking to Christy and getting to know her a little bit, and we look forward to seeing her again soon. But also, we will definitely connect with her at Rhinebeck this year as well.
And she told us that it'll probably air about end of April, maybe beginning of May. So we'll put it out on our social media platforms as soon as we get the data or as soon as it goes live. Yeah. So you can follow us on that. So that was lots of fun. So
is that it for all the little catch up and admin stuff?
Yeah, little housekeeping notes. Okay. So we can move into our finished objects.
Okay, so I see I'm on the list first here. Sorry to keep looking down, you guys. This is where we have our
little notes.
I think you should do the Scrappy thing first.
Oh, yes.
It's so great that you're wearing it.
Because I just happen to be wearing it.
It's like the elephant in the room.
So, you obviously we've been talking about this and on previous podcasts, and I Instagrammed it. So I finished the scarfie thing. I love it. I get so many compliments. It's quite fun to get all these compliments. And I have to say, it makes me very happy.
Pretty what you did there.
It is,
yeah. Did you do like a little braid at the end?
Yeah, exactly. Braided it and then
a little close up of that tassel.
So maybe this one is easier to.
So that's great.
So we did I did the tassel, and then I braided the end and then looped it through and did a little loop-de-loop and sewed it in.
Is that included in the instructions, or is
No, it just said make tassels, add tassels.
Yeah, looks really nice.
So I kind of just did what I thought, and it's been really fun to wear. It makes me really happy.
It's very spring-like,
and
very springy.
I tell you, it's been a big hit with the grade 4, 5, 6 crowd at my son's school. The kids love the tassels. So that just gave me some ideas of, Melissa and I both knit with our kids, and we knit at the school, so it gave us some ideas of what to do. So at first I contemplated, do I put a fringe? Do I put little tassels all along, big tassels? Do I put nothing? And I think the tassels really make it.
Yeah,
it really makes it fun.
It actually calls for tassels in the pattern.
Yes, she has tassels in the pattern. So I said, I think I'm going to do it. So so then I got this little, because yes, you can make tassels with a cardboard.
Yes.
You can make a pom-pom with a cardboard.
But that's not nearly as much fun as buying a gadget.
No, exactly. And then it's like perfect with the gadget, because you have the exact amount of tension and the height. So this is actually...
Actually, I don't even know how this works.
Yeah, it's quite fun.
So is that the adjustment for the length?
Yes,
the size
exactly.
Okay.
So you can, because this is, I'll show you first of all. So this is, it's a clover tassel maker, and we have 2 sizes in the store. This is the large size, and what's really nice is they give you the instructions on the back, so they're step-by-step photographic instructions. There's also a very huge handout in multiple languages if you prefer to read. And so if I look at this one, it says it makes 5 sizes. So it goes from 6 centimeters to 10 centimeters, or 2 3/8 of an inch to 4 inches. So this, it's really great. You just unscrew these parts here, and then you can put the size, and it has notches along the side over here. So it has the notches, and then it lets you know where are the notches over here. So you can define the size. So basically, you put this like this. You tighten your
Okay. So are you?
You're doing it this way.
You're doing it that way. Okay. So that's for a super long tassel.
Exactly. Well, I did the largest one, I think, for this.
So that's what you use for these?
Yes, because what happens is you
so
fold it in half.
Okay.
Exactly. So it's 4 inches.
All right.
So you wrap it around, and then you fold it in half and tie it. So I mean, it gives you all the instructions, but it's a great little tool.
And then it's got this. Is this for putting your scissors through?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So it's got a little
notch.
A little notch there, so that you can cut one end, right?
Yes, and these are all the multiple language instructions. So it's a great little gadget. I haven't used it up until now, but I'm really happy I did, because now I feel confident making tassels, because I was always like, the tassel's
And we have
not
these in
gonna
a
be
couple
perfect.
different sizes, right?
2 sizes.
Yeah. Did you say that already?
Yeah, I said that already. So that was that. So I did the Scrappy thing. Now, I know a lot of people, when knitters, want to know exactly what to do, but as I mentioned in previous podcasts, this is really about having fun, and this is really about letting yourself go. So I've written, actually, when Melissa, you're going to post our project on Ravelry.
Yes.
So she's going to photograph it. That's a great thing too. When I come up, I bring all these samples for Melissa to photograph. So she's going to photograph it on our mannequin, and then I have exactly how many grams I used of each color, but I didn't really follow a consistent pattern. So what Beata did was she did 6 ridges for every color, and she just used her mini skeins, but I just kind of went all over the place. So what I've done is given you an idea of how much of a contrasting color I use.
Yeah.
So I used 2.5 skeins of the Hedgehog Fiber Skinny Singles as my base, and then I used a few grams, like 8 grams, 20 grams, 15 grams of all the different colors. I even wrote how many grams I used for the tassel. So I mapped it all out. But what's fun is that if you run out of a contrasting color, you just add another one.
Of something else, right?
And what I was thinking too, Melissa, is that I use the color Crystal for the Skinny Single, but you could also use Madeline Tosh Silver Fox. Antler. You can also use paper, like if you wanted more creamy. So if you want to go gold, or if you want to go more like on a beigey or on a gray. You can also use Manos Fino. We have that silver tea set color.
It's a nice single ply.
Yeah, there's also art fill. So I mean, even though I use the crystal, there's so many colors that you can use.
I mean, it says a tiny speck, but not much.
It's not a speckle. It's
kind
more
of a
like
shading.
Exactly, like that.
It's a tonal.
And I use the speckle construct for my border, but it's all going to be up on our Ravelry page. So it was really fun. I really encourage you just to...
And it was a quick knit because it was fun,
It was.
So it was because it was motivating to keep going.
Completely
and
motivating.
Colors.
And just where am I going to go?
It's very long. Actually, you should take it off so we can show how long it is.
I'm not going to be able to put it back on me.
My goodness. You cannot show a project just around your neck.
Okay, madam.
Should we start over here?
Okay, you want to start over here?
It's very... do you know what the length is? Is that the right size?
It's in my... It'll be on my notes. It's over 80 inches.
All right.
84 maybe.
I mean, you knit this in record time.
I really knit it quickly. I have to say, It was just fun. I kept going. It made me happy. Sometimes you just need a happy knit.
Look how long it is.
Keep going and going and going. Now, you don't have to make it this long either. You just do what you want.
But it looks so great when you wrap it a few times around your neck, you know?
It does. It does.
So what would you say? So you said 80, roughly?
I think like 80.
I feel like it's
80,
longer.
86.
Yeah.
Okay, it's 86 or something like that. It'll be on our
You could easily end it wherever
you can end it wherever you want,
Yeah.
you know? That's really, we've got to let ourselves go. That's my lesson. The teacher in me
But
is
it's just
telling
easily
me
adjustable that way. It's just totally modular.
100%. Oh, see, now I'm having trouble. But, okay. So that's, I think that's it for my scarfie thing.
Okay.
There you go. Now you're warmed up now, Melissa? You can talk about your rest.
I'm ready. Okay, so instead of talking about that one on the list, I'm going to talk about this one because this one I've been showing.
We are flexible.
We are flexible. So this is, you guys, it's finished.
Finally. Oh, that's one funny thing. Is that, remember both of us called this Find Your Fade?
Oh, yeah. The Find Your Fade has been pervading everybody's consciousness. So this is my Find Your Fade. Your Find Your Fade. All right, so my Find Your Fade, which I started several months ago, is finally off the needles and blocked. And I have to say, I enjoyed this project till the end. I don't mind a project that has a lot of garter and a little bit of interest with the eyelets, the eyelet sections. It was fun seeing how all the colors intermingled as I went. I mean, that's the attraction of the Find Your Fade. Let's just see if we can
Even Sweet George is doing Find Your Fade. We talked about that on her podcast.
Yeah, everybody's doing the Find Your Fade. And so, I mean, as you'll notice, this, you know, the thing about the Find Your Fade is it's all about speckles. So a lot of hedgehog fibers. I think she uses, in the pattern, she uses primarily hedgehog fibers. So all the speckled yarns are all the rage for this one. I set out to do it with the speckles, and in the end, I just couldn't find my fade with the speckles. So I'm much more of a color block kind of girl. So I decided to just go with that.
But
it's
that's
my personality, right? So I'm much more confident picking colors where I'm not having to build on the previous color and the previous color. I mean, I know that that's sort of a fun, creative thing to do, but for whatever reason, it wasn't working for me. So what I will say is that I did use 6 colors in the end. The pattern calls for 7 actually, but it's very flexible, and there are a couple of places that you can combine. So for example, I started with the onyx in the Madeline Tosh Light, and I ended with onyx in the Madeline Tosh Light. So I still had quite a bit of that ball left over at the end. I used, the second color is paper, and at the end here I used antique lace, but I think that you could have used paper for that as well, so you could have combined those two, because they're not, I mean, one's obviously slightly darker than the other, but you could have used just those. And then this one's Pop Rocks. The hot pink is the Pop Rocks, and then I went into Antler and Molly Ringwald Pink, which has been discontinued and now we're sold out of, right? So you might be able to find it somewhere. It's a beautiful light ballet pink. But they have replaced it with some other new pinks that are coming in, some lighter pinks that are coming in soon. So antique lace and then the onyx. So I will just caution people, if you haven't started this, it is an easily memorizable pattern. And it's easy to get a little overconfident and just sort of be, you know, I got this, and, you know, keep going and stop looking at the pattern. But just be aware that when you switch to color number 4, the shape does start changing. So you stop decreasing on one side of your midline here, and you keep increasing on the other. So you maintain the same number of stitches for the rest of the shawl, but your midline is changing there, and the positioning of it. So that's all. Just, I did get most of that white antler section finished before I realized that I'd made a mistake, so I had to undo it, and
it's all part of the knitting process.
It backed me up at least a week, So anyway, so I'm happy to have it off the needles. I'm looking forward to wearing it. To me, it feels very much like a spring shawl. I guess I should try it on for people. It is quite big, and I will say that is, some people are finding that a challenge. But I think it gives you a lot of different ways to wear it, and I have taken pictures of it in lots of different positions, and they're all
Yeah, and sometimes it's nice, like, I know often you wear the triangle point over your shoulder too, which looks really nice.
Yeah, exactly. So I took it in a bunch of different positions, and they're all on the project page for my... What I will say is that this light pink I thought would look nicer on me than it does. I feel it makes me look a little washed out, so if I were to do it again, I think I would put the hot pink in that position.
And maybe too, like when you wear it, you can shift it over so that you can have one of the main...
But you know, that fifth color is, if you wear it like that fifth color is going to be the one that's closest to your face. So just pick,
that's a good tip, Melissa.
Pick
that. Really good tip.
Pick one to go there that you really like.
That's a great tip.
In that position, so...
I know if knitting wasn't so long, it would be great to redo it. You know, because sometimes you do a pattern and then you're like, oh, I should have done this or that. Okay, I should redo it, but oh my god, I'm on to the next project.
I know. I was happy to finish it. I was happy to knit it, but I'm really happy it's over.
It's always like that. When you get to the end, you're like, oh, I'm happy. I'm on my way there.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to move into the High Pines cowl. So this is the knit along that we're hosting, and this one was knit by Catherine, one of our consultants. So she said it was really fun, it was really motivating, and what she liked about it was that there were a few, some new techniques that she had learned. So the techniques and the pattern is super well written. The pattern is 12 pages, which you're like, oh my goodness, 12 pages, but everything you need to know is in the pattern. Oh, that actually looks good on you, Melissa. That color looks great on you. Yeah, you should keep that in mind. So first thing is the rib cable cast on. So if you wanted to show Melissa the cast on, I think it's on this edge.
Here.
So it's really nice because it's a cast on, but it follows the rib. So it just looks like there's no break. You know, it goes right into the rib.
But it is a twisted rib, isn't it?
Because it's cable, right?
Oh, yeah.
So when you put it back on, it twists. Then the bind off is a tubular bind off to mimic the cast on. So there's the tubular bind off, and when you do the tubular bind off, you Kitchener stitch.
Yes.
So that's another technique that you're learning. It also has a chart, but as you can see, it's quite repetitive. So it's really good for intro to chart reading as well, because you have one chart that you have to follow, and it can introduce you to that.
And it's just a beautiful texture.
Yeah, and it didn't take her long to knit. It's very repetitive pattern. So it's a great one if you want to improve your skills, if you want to learn some new techniques and not be so scared to try something new. So that's one finished object we have in the store.
Very nice. Yeah, I might have to knit that.
Yeah, I think that in that color, Melissa.
Oh, what is that color called? Poison or potion?
Potion.
Potion.
Yes,
okay,
potion.
that's the Arbor, Brooklyn Tweed Arbor 3 skeins in the potion colorway.
Yeah, super nice.
Okay. But we've seen it in a few different colors people have chosen in their house.
So nice.
Beautiful.
So nice. Okay.
Arbor yarn is so nice. Is it my turn
again?
Yeah,
your turn.
Okay. All right. So as you guys know, I'm a avid podcast watcher of many other knitting podcasts, and like all knitters, it doesn't matter if you own a store. If you see something you like and you have to have it, it doesn't matter if you have the yarn in your store. You're going to find it.
Yeah.
So I was watching Wool Jewel podcast. It's Caitlin. She is an American living in Germany. And I think it was her third. I think she's got 5 or 6 episodes now, and I think it was her third episode. And she just very casually presented this shawl, and it stopped me in my tracks. I was like, I have to have that. So it's a Stephen West shawl. It's called the S-Gen, and I mean, I've seen this pattern for years.
We even have customers who've knit it.
Yeah, we have customers who've knit it. And I've always thought, oh, that's a crazy shawl, but it's not really me. So I never had a desire to cast it on. Anyway, Caitlin held hers up, and I was like, I must have it. So
I think you sent me the email as you're watching the podcast.
No, I bought the yarn and sent the invoice to the store. By the way, I just bought some yarn at another store. I couldn't resist. So I shamelessly copied
No, but the funniest thing is that we carry these yarns, but we didn't have the colors.
No, this is Cascade Eco Duo,
which we
carry. Used to carry.
Yes.
So we don't carry it anymore. So I had to go elsewhere. And then the yellow and the natural are actually Malabrigo worsted. We do carry some Malabrigo yarns. We just don't carry that particular one. We actually called Manos Maxima is sort of the equivalent that we sell. But you know, that Frank Ochre, that yellow, that Frank Ochre colorway is
very specific,
and I love it. Yeah. Really, it's not really a color I can wear, I have to say, but there's just something about it.
But you can wear it when it's not right on your face.
Yeah, I mean, I wore it to New York.
Yeah,
I wore it on the Christy Glass.
Yeah. But that's an important point to
podcast
mention, you know. It's like there's a color that you really love, but you can't wear it right at your face.
So you
but if
sort
you
of have
you
a
wear it
little
a little bit, you have it as an accent somewhere else.
So I copied exactly now. She mentioned that she used these 3 skeins, and I just assumed, I didn't really look at the pattern, I just ordered 1 ball of each of those colors. And then I started to knit it, and then I thought, oh, wait a minute, I wonder if it actually was 1 ball of each that I needed. Anyway, I knit away, and I will say I cut it very, very close for every single one. So for the Eco Duo section up here, this is what I had left. Okay, so you want to be on gauge.
Story of my life.
Yeah. It does not happen to me very often that I'm playing yarn chicken. No, so that's how much I love
that yarn chicken. Never heard of that.
Do not play. So I do not like playing it, so I'm always more than equipped. But I was cutting it close and a little nervous, but I had enough. Okay, so then we moved into the Frank Ochre, and that was all going along very well. And alternating with this is just the natural colorway in the Malabrigo worsted, and I finished the natural, and I had quite a bit left over. And then
you were feeling confident.
I was feeling very confident, and I thought, well, I must have enough in the Frank Ochre. But as you'll see, the white is just 3 sections, and it's 4 sections of the Frank Ochre, and I ran out actually. So what I had to do was shave off 2 rows.
You don't even notice.
I know. I
would never have known.
I was really worried. I was gonna. Do I order another ball for 2 rows? So what I did is I undid, because I had done a whole, the beginning out, and so I undid, and then I did 4 rows, and then the bind off on the right side, and that's how much I had left. Mm-hmm. So what I did was...
You're saving money.
Yeah, exactly. And it's really not noticeable. I think it turned out okay. So I love it. It is so soft. It's soft, right, Lisa?
It's amazing, I have to say.
It's so soft and cozy. It
was perfect for that New York winter day when we went to visit Christy.
Yeah. So what I did was I ordered enough... if you're interested in also shamelessly replicating this shawl in these colors, we'll make up a few kits. Yep. I ordered the yarn to make up a few kits, and they'll be in store... probably within a week or 2.
Right.
Because the yarn is all ordered, right?
Yeah, maybe it's even there now.
Yeah, it could be there now.
We did get a shipment, I think, from Estelle when
I'll put it in the show notes whether or not it's available.
And it'll be on our web store for sale, right?
Yes.
As a kit.
Yes. It will only be, the yarn for these 3 colors in this yarn will only be available as a kit.
You can still order other yarns to do that.
Yeah, so just to say, it's worsted weight yarn. So if you've got something... and that you love, then that's all it is. It's
this is single ply,
and I used all single ply worsted weight yarn.
So it gives a different look than if you would do a applied yarn.
Yeah. Okay.
And the yarns that we have that are single ply worsted would be the Manos Maxima.
Manos Maxima.
If you wanted to do that in another color.
Okay. I think that's it.
That's it. Okay, so I'm going to move along to my bag. Talk about playing knitting chicken. What did you call it? Knitting chicken?
Yarn chicken.
Yarn chicken. Mm-hmm. I love that. So this is my...
I did not make that up, by the way.
No,
that is Lisa. How could you be in the knitting world for all these years and not know that?
Because you know me.
Yarn chicken.
You know me. So I designed last summer, I designed a bag called the Summer Fling bag because the idea was I just wanted a little bag where you can throw your wallet, your keys, your cell phone, throw it over your shoulder and head out for the day. So something really simple. And a lot of people have knit this and they're always surprised when because they see the pictures, which we have it on a mannequin. I talk about the dimensions, but I guess it's a lot of times.
They're a little bit shocked when they see how
small it is. But really, the idea was to have this like small summer fling, and we did it in the Quince Sparrow, which is one of my favorite linens. So the Quince Sparrow is a fingering weight linen. I did it at a more of a tighter gauge than we usually knit our linens. So I had done that last year, and then we decided that because based on people's feedback, wanting something bigger, I said, okay, we're going to make a bigger version of it. So we jumped on this great yarn, which interestingly we haven't been able to find anywhere online or in social media. This Killam yarn, right, Melissa?
Yeah.
So
it was shown to us by our supplier, by our distributor.
So it's Killam yarn by Filature di Crossa, and we get it from our supplier, which is Estelle Design Yarns, or
and it's a mix of jute. Well, the main strand of it is jute, and then it's wrapped with multicolored acrylic
fiber.
Strands. Yeah.
And so we thought it'd be an amazing fiber for summer because it's very hard to find a bulkier weight linen or like a jute or a hemp yarn.
To do like hanging baskets and nice sturdy summer bags.
Yeah, you want something sometimes like a little thicker that can hold its shape, and also it's a quicker knit.
Yeah.
So it's actually a yarn that's a 12 stitch gauge on an 8mm, and so what I did was I replicated the summer fling bag, and I've made it a bigger version. So the construction of this bag is, if you could see the bottom, is you knit a rectangle at the bottom, a flat bottom, and then you cast off. And the reason why I wanted to cast off is because I wanted to have a sturdier structure, so I wanted the seam.
You wanted that seam?
Because in the original pattern I did a provisional cast on, so it would be seamless because it was a more delicate bag.
Okay.
So this one I just did a regular cast on, I knit a rectangle, I cast off, and then I picked up all along the edge. So the long, the short, the long, and then I knit up in the round. I knit in the round, and then I did a couple of rows of decreasing as I went up to sort of bring it, like to give it a little bit more. And then when I got to the height that I wanted, I cast off the center, and then I knit the straps. So I knit the strap and then gradually decrease the strap. I did that on both sides. And then I Kitchener stitched it together so that you wouldn't have a seam, because I'm, like Melissa said, what did you say? A pea
your princess and the pea.
I can feel all these little seams. So I did a Kitchener stitch so that it would be seamless, so you wouldn't feel it on your shoulder. So once I did that, after I Kitchener stitched it, I picked up all the stitches and then just bound off. So that way it really reinforces the straps.
So it's a very sturdy bag. It's not going to stretch out of shape.
Right. Because that's why I didn't want one that would like really hang if you load it up
and get longer and longer.
Right, exactly. And you're like, it's down to your ankle,
and you're tying knots up here in the strap.
Yeah. So it's really sturdy and solid, and it was a super fast knit. But as we talked about this chicken yarn concept, I ran out of yarn now because I measured, but I don't know what I was thinking when I measured. So I would have enough. I wanted to maximize my strap length, so I measured out how much I would need
for
to
the pick up
and
the
bind off. And multiplied by 2, but I think that multiplied by 2 at midnight when I was measuring.
The math was not her forte at that point.
So I'm like, well, at least I measured enough for one side, but then I didn't have for another. So
you can do the whole strap again. Well, all the bind off, undo the strap, the Kitchener bind off, the strap, and then re-knit.
And then
pull back.
Exactly, and then re-Kitchener and then pick up.
Yeah.
But you won't have to do that, because when I write up the pattern,
all the bugs.
Exactly. So it was really good. And then what we were saying, so what I did was I used 2 skeins of a base color, and then I used 3 skeins of the top. So technically it took 5 skeins.
Do you remember how many colors this came in? Was it 8 or 10?
It wasn't 10, I don't think, Melissa.
No?
It wasn't that many colors, but they're really fun colors.
They are. There's some bright pinks and oranges, and
there's a really nice green as well, and
blues.
then a bright blue. Really fun colors. Yeah. So you could do the bag in all one color.
You see that Lisa really expressed her. This is all she could do.
Yes, indeed. So if you wanted just to do one, like a little peekaboo, and just have one color and then all the rest, or 3 colors. Yeah. Really, again, you can decide what you want.
So if you were to just do one ball of this, it would end around here?
Yeah, it would end around there.
And then you could do... And so this was 2 and this was 3?
Exactly.
Okay.
And if you wanted...
So you could do 1 and then 4.
Yes, if you wanted 1 and 4, if you wanted 5 in one color. What's nice is if you're more of a messenger, so this is more of a tote and a market bag, a beach bag, but if you're more of a messenger style person, you would need an extra skein, but you can make the straps a lot longer. And if you wanted versatility, instead of Kitchener stitching the straps, what you would do is tie them in a knot. So you can just go up, bind off, and tie it in a knot. And that way you can adjust. It can be a shoulder bag or it can be a messenger bag. So you have that option if you prefer. And if you if you didn't want a Kitchener stitch, you could do a 3-needle bind off we spoke about.
Yeah. Which is what I suggested initially, and then Lisa was like, "Oh no, but I'll feel the seam."
She's like, "Oh my God, you're just too sensitive."
Yeah.
So, anyways, I had a lot of fun. It was a super fast knit, I have to say, and I will though have a disclaimer.
All the undoing notwithstanding, right?
Exactly, and I will have a little disclaimer that jute linen is not
the most pleasurable to knit.
No,
right?
Especially on your fingers. It can, get a little bit, rough.
Yeah.
You might want to put some cream on your hands before. Yeah. But what I really love about these fibers is that it gives you such a different kind of fabric, and it allows you to knit different things. And so if you want that result, you want a really nice sturdy beach bag or market bag or a basket, you have to go towards these fibers. And because
the merino's not going to cut it.
No, and because it's a thicker gauge, you're going to go faster. It'll go faster. And I actually knit it on 6mm needle because I'm
the base as well.
So what happened? Okay, so I'll get to that in one sec. I wanted a really tight fabric because I wanted to hold up more. So that made the experience a little bit more difficult knitting. So one thing I would change, however, is that I knit the base on a 6mm and then I knit the body on a 6mm. And I should have learned this from my Bowden swatch, but it escaped my mind that as soon as I went in the round, I was tighter. So if I were to reknit this, I'm going to write that in the pattern notes. Okay. I'm going to state that if you're a person who knows that your gauge gets tighter in the round, I would go down a needle size.
For the bottom.
For the bottom.
Not up a needle size.
No,
for the,
I would go down a needle size. So what I should have done is a 5.5 for my base and then a 6. And then the straps are knit flat. So I switched to a 5.5 for the straps, and I ended up matching my gauge. Okay. So this is all matched, but my base is a little looser. Okay. So that's a suggestion. This is one of those things where if I had it in me to reknit it again, I would do that. And we haven't chosen a name for the pattern yet, so we were joking and we said
so the little one's called the Summer Fling, right?
Yeah, and then Melissa says, we should call it the Summer Commitment.
Yeah, this is you're staying together.
Yes, we are. So I don't
carrying all your stuff.
So we'll decide on that. I always like to put a little bit of nod to French, so I sometimes like to call my patterns with some French names. But I'm realizing as we have a broader community of knitters, the French isn't so easy,
with the pronunciation. Yeah.
We got that from Christy Glass. So
who really struggles with the pronunciation of our store name.
So I don't know what I'm going to do. So I have to say it was a lot of fun. I really feel this is like a really nice sturdy bag I can bring with me all around in the summer. So we'll be posting that pattern up. It'll be available first in English because we can get that up quickly, and then we'll send it off to translation for it to be available in French. Alors, that's it. C'est bon? Okay. So that's that, and that's the Killam yarn.
So are those all our finished objects?
Let's see. Yes, high pines. Yep. So we're down to works in progress.
Okay. So was it last podcast?
Yes,
or two podcasts ago?
No, well, you had.
Okay. So I know what happened. 2 podcasts ago, I talked about these. I introduced the idea of these Afterthought everything socks, which I thought was a brilliant idea that I wanted to try. Which was that the idea about knitting two socks. Not at a time, but sort of in one go. So what this pattern does is it has you cast on your cuff, and then you knit. You basically are knitting one long tube and ending with a cuff at the other end. And as you go, you're going to insert some waste yarn for where you're going to go back and insert your heel. You're going to insert some waste yarn for where your toes are ending, and you're going to pick up the stitches and finish off your toes, and then you just continue going, and then you you do the same for the heel of the second sock, and then you sorry, I didn't put the email off on here, Lisa. Please turn the email off.
That's like the 4th one already.
Sorry.
That's my P, Princess in the P, sensitivity.
Anyway, okay, so you continue knitting the tube, and then you cast off the cuff, and then you come back, you do your 2 heels, you separate, and do your toes. So I, at the same time that I cast on that sock, I had also been trying to adjust the way that I was knitting, or adjusting my technique to learn the flicking technique, which I talked a little bit about in the last podcast, to improve my speed and efficiency. And what it did help with my speed. However, it also affected my gauge, and I wound up knitting the sock quite tightly. So I think I showed it in the last podcast, and at the end of it, I wasn't sure what I was going to do. So what I decided to do was to just frog it, and I pulled it all out. And last night I cast on to do. It's a different colorway. The last one was Come Sail Away. So it was a different color, and I thought, if I'm going to do it again, I want to start a new color. I'll go back and finish the Come Sail Away, or recast it on. But this one was grabbing my attention yesterday. So this is called Lemon Sour. It's also Scrumptious Pearl, and I thought it was super bright and fun.
It is. I actually knit a hat. Yeah, I knit a hat for my son in that color. It was so much fun. Yeah.
So I'm having fun. It's it's fast, and I also switched from. So I was knitting my last one in Magic Loop. So again, I don't know if I've made another change that it's going to reintroduce a change in
too many variables.
I'm changing too many variables.
maybe your scientist husband would say you changed too many variables.
Now you don't know what's what, right? You don't know what's causing what. Anyway, I decided to try the 9. I think I've knit with these before. Baby sleeves, I think, on baby sweaters and that kind of thing, not for socks. Or like child sweaters and stuff, you know? So anyway, I decided to try them, and it's going so fast. So fast. And these are the Haya Steel 9-inch
needles.
9-inch needles. So anyway, so stay tuned. We'll have an update on that in the next podcast.
Going.
Yeah. Well, look how fun that ball is.
It is.
Lemon salad.
I mean, it's really nice when you're knitting and you're having fun, like the colors. And I guess that's what's nice about color changing yarn or striping yarn. You're sort of like, oh, I'm motivated to get to the next session, you know.
Okay, what do you have next?
Well, you can go because I don't have that many, so maybe you want to do your granny square and then I'll move on.
Okay, you know what? I'll talk about
your house slipper?
My simple house slippers. So I think I also talked about on the last podcast the fact that I decided that it was of the utmost urgency that I knit a pair of slippers for everyone in the family. So I think that I had finished Tristan's.
Yep, you had.
These are the Simple House Slippers pattern by Simone A., who is Temple of Knit.
Can I put one on my foot?
Yeah, sure.
Because it was so, I was like...
It was cozy, right? She was not convinced it was going to fit. It looked too short.
Yeah, and I was like, oh my God, Melissa. Okay, don't go there, Lisa, because winter's almost over now.
Anyway, so my son is a size 9.
They're really fun.
No, those are a little bit short on you, though.
But I'm just maybe a tad bit
you have a bigger foot than I do.
Just a little bit bigger. But I have to say, they are lovely, cozy, and nice barefoot.
They feel nice,
I put them on barefoot last year. I'm like, ooh, I love it.
So, you know, these were something that were going to be super fast, and I was going to whip them up, and I did my son's, and then I did one of mine. I think I had one finished in the last podcast. Mm-hmm. And, you know, you lost steam. But what's hilarious is, so I finished the second one of mine since we last recorded, and I cast on the pair for my husband. I'm using Quince & Co. Osprey yarn.
That's a great cut.
Nice.
Look at that. It's almost like your estrogen, Melissa.
I tell you, yellow and gold, it's the color.
It is. That's what we were saying.
Yeah.
You know, it's funny. She won't even let her son wear them until they finish.
He's like, well, can I have my slippers? I'm like, no, you can't until all 3 are done and they're a nice set and we can all put them on ceremonially together.
Take a picture of all your feet.
Which probably won't be until next fall. So
it'll be done soon.
Those are good. Yeah. But I highly recommend that. It's nice, sturdy. Rustic yarn knit 4.5 millimeter needle. So obviously I'm knitting it on a smaller needle than the yarn calls for. It's a bulky weight yarn, and I'm knitting on a 4.5 millimeter needle for a nice dense fabric.
And you know what? And what's really nice, it's 100% wool, so there's really a lot of breathability in there too. You know, so there's no overheating. It's really nice, breathable. Okay, so now I'm going to my Bowden. So where's my Bowden? So my goal was to finish my bag and my Bowden for this podcast, and we had the problem is because I had that yarn problem, and you know I had to pull out, and also we were we drove down here, so I'm like, oh, I have all this time in the car, and we had gone skiing in Jay Peak before, but then I forgot my headlamp, so I couldn't knit in the car when it was dark, so I lost about an hour and a half of knitting. I was like, oh my God, because it's, you know, not so great to have the overhead light while someone's driving.
It's illegal, isn't it?
I have no idea, but there's no way. I mean, as a driver, you know that you can't do that. It's too distracting. So I lost a little bit of knitting, so we just listened to the news and audiobooks instead. So this is my Bowden. I've actually done quite a bit. So this is the turtleneck, and Melissa laughed at me because I asked her how long she made hers. So she said,
10 inches.
10 inches, and my pattern said 12 inches, so I told her, oh, I might stop at 10, and then I made it 14.
It's ridiculous. It's so long.
I have to say...
So have you tried it on?
Yeah, I tried it on. It's great.
It scrunches
it scrunches up, and I have to say, I really like that cozy, scrunchy feeling around my neck, and I'm always cold.
But did you have to adjust? Did the pattern call for more of a cowl neck?
Yeah, so the only thing I did different is that you pick up the stitches, so I picked up the right amount, but then she increases. So on the first row to make like a looser cowl, and I wanted really a cozy neck. So I didn't increase, and I just went straight up, and I made a 14-inch tube, and I did the tubular. She calls for a tubular bind-off in the pattern, so I did a tubular bind-off.
Which is really pretty.
So it's really nice. It's the first time I had done it, because usually I'm just like, oh, my regular bind-off's good enough. But this time I said, no, I'm going to go for the tubular.
Clean edge.
Yeah, a really nice clean edge. So I did that, and then usually you do
so soft. It's the Woolfolk
Oh, I tell you, it better stay cold for a little bit so I can wear it. I've got some little fluffs on it though. So another thing I did different is on her pattern, she does a row of purl before she starts the rib, and I decided I wanted just like move right from stockinette into the rib, so I didn't do that row of purl. All along. And then I did again the tubular bind off at the end. Now the difference is that in her pattern, she does a 4-row prep in the tubular bind off where you like knit a stitch, slip the purl, knit a stitch, slip the purl, and then in the next one you slip the knit stitch and then purl.
Okay.
So you do, and so the yarn is like in front, you're slipping with yarn in front or slipping with yarn in back. You do the 4, then you do the Kitchener stitch. So I actually did that.
Okay.
And then what I noticed is it made a little bit of a thicker lip over here.
Okay.
So because you had these 4 rows where you had slipped the stitches with the yarn either in front or in back, and it made a little bit, so it kind of buckled a little bit on me. And I just, I hummed and hawed and I wasn't sure, and should I redo it? Should I leave it? And what I realized is that if I'm having a doubt, and this is a sweater I want to wear, I need to take the time to undo it. So I actually undid. It was
a pain. It took hours.
It took hours. So, doing that bind off, first of all, because you're Kitchener stitching the whole thing around. Yeah. So I had to undo the Kitchener stitch. Okay. Then I had to undo the 4 rows. And then I had to put all the ribs, the back onto my needle.
Oh, God.
And then I had to re-Kitchener stitch.
It's exhausting.
So that is why it's not finished. It would have been finished if I decided not to do that. And then in my head, I was telling myself, why don't you just wait till the end? And then, but I couldn't. I said, I wanted to get that done because when I finish my sleeves, I wanted to be done.
You would have this feeling of being dissatisfied, and then it would take the pleasure out of knitting the rest of it, right?
So now I know I'm just doing the sleeves and I'm going to be done. And so you have a rib neck, stockinette body, and then you have a rib border around and it's like it's short rows, so it's longer in the back. And then for the sleeves, you stockinette, and then you rib the last 8 inches. So another bummer for me was that I'm working on DPNs because I like using the 12-inch circular needles for my sleeves because, like you said with your sock, it goes. Yeah. So we don't have any 6 millimeter.
In 12 inch?
So I'm like, I don't even think they make them. So I went to look at all our distributors, and nobody seems to make the 6 inch. They seem to stop at 5.5. So I was so bummed because I'm on a 6 millimeter, and I'm not good for magic loop because I pull too tight. So when I have to slide those second stitches, I can't get them
back up onto the needle.
So I'm on DPNs. I'm a little bit bummed, but it's gonna go quickly. Yeah. So it'll be. So now I've done about this much on my first sleeve. So that's where I am with my Bowden. It was a really great learning experience, and I think one thing that's really important is that when you look at a pattern, like I didn't want that purl ridge, so it's important to say, if I don't like that, I don't have to follow exactly. I can take it out. And then another thing is if you do something and you're not happy with the way you do it, just take it out, And sometimes it's like you have to take it out and get back to that point right away.
Yeah, it's like ripping off a Band-Aid.
Yeah. And what happened with my bag yesterday is we were going into the city, and I said, no, I've got to rip that out, and I have to put my stitches back so that when I come back from the city,
I'm ready to go.
I'm ready to go.
It's like when I realized that I had done the whole section, this white section, without doing the right decreases, and I was on a plane. Yeah. And I just pulled it all out right on the plane. I got all my stitches back on the needle, so I knew that the next time I picked it up, I was able to just start again, rather than throwing it in a corner in a bag, knowing that you have to pull it off.
Yeah, it's exactly
because it will just stay in the corner in the bag.
So like you get it back to where it's going to be a pleasant experience. And these are the little stitch holders we talked about last time, the clover. So that's great. It's like super flexible. It's just sitting on there.
Is this the 9 to 16 inch size?
Yes, it's the shorter one. Yeah. So I really, so that's been it's been really fun. And what's great is I've been trying this sweater on as I've been going, which is really nice as well. Because I have the interchangeable needle kits, so you can just add the extender, put another cord, try it on.
Have you made any modifications because you've been trying it on as you go?
No, it's been good. Yeah,
but you're able to confirm that it's the right...
Exactly, that it's the right length, and that's where I want to start my border, and that my turtleneck is good before I bound off. I wanted to make sure the turtleneck was good. So it's been really good, and I have to say it's going to be the first sweater that I've knit that I'm going to wear. Yeah. So I'm really looking forward to that. Yes, we shall see.
We shall see. You always plan on wearing your sweaters.
I know, and I never do. But this one, I purposely did. And so that's my Bowden. I think that's all that I wanted to say about that. Okay, good.
All right. So, as many of you know, if you watch podcasts, there's a crochet fever happening. The granny stripe blanket is on the needles on the hook of many podcasters, and I don't know how to crochet. I'd never crocheted before, and it's something that I've been feeling like, as a store owner, I should really know how to do and be able to speak to. And the more you watch podcasts, the more you start falling into that. Should I be doing that granny stripe blanket too? Because everybody's doing that granny stripe blanket, and I really love the look of everyone who's I want to say knitting it, everyone who's crocheting it. It's just like everyone that they hold it up and it's like, oh, it's so beautiful, it's so beautiful. I'm going to cast it on. But I knew myself, and I that is a big blanket. It's really, really big, and I thought, I don't want to start it and get all my yarn lined up and then not have the wherewithal to stick with it. So anyway, I didn't know how to cast it on anyway and crochet at all. So my mom was visiting a couple of weeks ago, and she obviously knows the basics of crochet because she's always been very crafty. She's actually the one who taught me how to knit. And I said, Mom, you know how to do a granny square? And she says, yeah. So I had all of these mini, 2-gram skeins of Madeline Tosh Light as part of our our color card.
Yes.
They don't do a color card. Yeah, when we first opened the store, they send you a mini skein of every single color that they have.
It was so pretty to look at.
It was so pretty. But it was just taking up a lot of space in our store, and we weren't referring to it so much anymore, so we just decided to take it out of stores. It's been hanging around my place, and I thought,
let me do that.
Let me just see if I can work with that. So I started creating these little mini balls using the magic knot technique of so I put my mini skein on my Swift and I wind it into a little ball or a little cake, and then as soon as I get to an end, I take another one, put it on the Swift, and do the little magic. I don't know if you know the magic knot technique, but you create a little knot overlapping, and then you pull your yarns until there's a little. Let me see if I can find it.
And just to let you know, Jane Richmond has a great, she's a knitwear designer. She has a great video. I always refer to that every time I have to do magic knot. I pull it up on YouTube. So I just always type in magic knot knitting Jane Richmond. Yeah. And her video pops right up. So it's a great video.
That little tiny knot can you even see it? There it is. It creates a little tiny knot in your yarn, which is as strong as anything. It's not going to come apart really ever.
No, and you can cut really close to the knot.
I could probably have even cut a little bit closer than this. And so while it's great for crochet and incorporating that yarn into a crochet project, I probably wouldn't do it in a stockinette project.
It depends though. I've done it with linen. Yeah, I've done it with my
I feel like you would notice that little.
Well, you know what? I did it under the sleeve, and when you're knitting, you can kind of push the
thing towards the back.
Yeah, towards the back. So I've actually knitted,
but it'll shift around, right?
Actually, I did it in that. I can't remember that pattern. The Westbourne. I knit the Westbourne pattern.
Yeah.
And I used it, and I just joined along the seam here, and it was great because for linen, I really like to make a knot in my knitting, because it doesn't felt or stick like wool. Yeah. So I knit it. I used that.
Okay, so you used that.
Yeah, I used it. Mm-hmm.
So I can't. I don't even know how many I have. Like at least 100 and 150.
Yeah, that's how many colors they have when we started.
150 or 200 colors exactly. So I have just been creating these balls as I go, and I really have no idea what this is going to be, you guys. I thought, I'll. Is it going to be an Afghan? Is it going to be some sort of wrap? I envision sort of finishing the whole thing, and it's sort of like a rainbow. I have a whole it's a range and a whole rainbow of colors. And I thought, maybe I'll do some sort of pom-pom edge or something at the end in a black or a neutral and have some sort of like big wrap. Anyway, I have no idea what it's going to be, but I have to say I'm really enjoying the flow and the process of crocheting, so much so that, who knows, maybe I'll cast on a granny stripe blanket as well.
Yeah.
With all my leftover.
Such big plans.
Exactly.
Big plans we have.
Now I can say I crochet a tiny
I know. I'm so proud of you, Melissa.
I know. You shouldn't be proud. You should be jealous.
Oh.
You got to do at least.
I know. Okay.
All right, so that's what I have on the needles. I think is that it?
Well, for me, I'm really dying to cast something on now. So I just finished my bag, my summer commitment bag. I'm almost finished my Bowden.
Yeah.
So now I'm like, even though I have a couple of things pending that I've talked about a few podcasts below, previous, below on the chain of podcasts. So I'm really itching, and we're going and visiting some yarn shops in the city yesterday, and I'm like, no, resist. And I'm like, I feel like I want instant gratification, but we're moving into summer, spring.
We need to be knitting some linens.
And Melissa and I, over the years, we've really gone into linen. We really love summer knitting. And
we never understand people who are very seasonal knitters.
Yeah, there's always something beautiful.
You always need to knit.
Yeah.
And there are so many beautiful things to knit in the summer with linens and cottons and hemps and silks, and so it's just a different fiber story in the summer.
And also, especially the climate we come from, in the evening there's always a little breeze, or it's not super hot for very long, so you always need like a little summer shawl or a little summer sweater. I never go anywhere, or even if you're in a hot climate, all the air conditioning, or you go into a grocery store and then all of a sudden you're frozen.
Yeah.
So I always have a little shawl or scarf or a little top in my bag. So the nice thing with linen is you often knit it at a looser gauge as well, so it's a bit faster of a knit, and it doesn't wrinkle up that much, so you can just throw it in your bag. So now I'm really looking at linen patterns. So I'm like, what kind of, do I want a tank top? Do I want a little summer cardigan? Do I want a shawl? Do I want one of each? And I actually said to you, I haven't decided, but remember yesterday we were having that discussion. I said, Melissa, I look at all these beautiful patterns from like Isabel Kramer, and from Coco Knits, and from Habu, and from Heidi Kurmeyer, and Olga Jazzy, and all these other people that we love. And I'm like, in linens and in Habu fibers, and I was just like, I just want to make myself a whole wardrobe. A whole wardrobe of all these like short cardigans, long cardigans, asymmetrical cardigans. Yes. So you said, well, why don't you choose 3 or 4 and do it as a summer wardrobe? I'm like, you're so clever.
Because who would have thought?
Who would have ever thought, Because I'm just thinking it's like, So now I'm in that process of reflecting, and that's always the exciting part as knitters, right? You just finish a project, you've got the world of possibilities, you have Ravelry, you have friends to talk to. So that's where I am now. I'm sort of like, okay, where am I going to go? And maybe I'll take you up and do this like little
linen
wardrobe.
A linin wardrobe knit along.
Yeah.
Because there are lots that I have on my radar to cast on for the summer.
Just a little side note, we're going to be getting we have a yarn line coming, an Espace Tricot linen yarn line called Espace Tricot Petit Lin, which means small linen, and Petit Lin Plus, which is small linen plus,
which is more of a sport weight.
So that's going to be coming in soon, so we're anxious for that to come in also to start knitting up projects. We have Sparrow by Quince, which is a great linen. We have Kestrel by Quince, which is the thicker gauge linen.
We still have Euroflax?
No, we don't have, because we're replacing that, I think, with
I think we have a little bit of Euroflax, Luette Euroflax left, eh?
I'm not sure if we have any left. We
have
to check our numbers.
Okay.
I think we've sold it all off. And we have another cotton linen, which I can't remember the name of, that's coming in, a cotton linen blend. We have some handmaiden lino, which is a linen silk blend, and we have the Swiss silk coming in. So now all the summer yarns are starting to come like towards end of March. So that's really nice to knit with silks and linens and cottons and blends. So that's
so we have lots of plans. Actually, this is one. Quince has just launched a new collection called Linen Noir, which was right up our alley, right? Of course, linen and
it's
black.
funny because last year they had the Sans, which was all like the neutral colorway. So that was up our alley. It was like all patterns in like the neutral creamy color, and now it's
and
the
so
noir.
This is a very pretty one that it's called Cullum, and it's by Heidi Kurmeyer. It's by Heidi Kurmeyer, right?
I think so. We always
Isabel
Kramer. We always Isabel Kramer.
It's by Isabel Kramer. Okay,
sorry, Isabel and Heidi. We love you both, so we keep. Which one is it?
So this is a very simple little tee. So I think we're going to knit that up as a store sample and also offer it as a class.
Yes,
this summer.
And that'll be in the. Did you say Sparrow?
Sparrow. Yeah. Sorry, this is the Quince & Co. Sparrow. So that's the fingering weight. Linen yarn in the Eclipse colorway. I think in the Kestrel, the black colorway is called Ash.
Yes, it is.
Yeah,
so that's exciting. That makes our heart palpitate a little faster.
Yeah, exactly. So we have lots of ideas for spring, and also we have some Espace Tricot patterns that we've knit previously in some Habu yarns, some
creative linen,
which was a linen cotton blend,
yes,
wasn't it? From Rowan. And so we're thinking of revamping those in some
of our new linen
new linen yarns. Yeah. So, what else do you have to talk about?
I think that's it.
Were you going to talk about any specific projects that you had?
No, because I'm not really sure. I'm really trying to focus on finishing what I had, so I really wanted to focus on finishing my Bowden. Okay. And then I need to reflect on where I'm going with the next stage. Very important reflections here.
Okay. All right. So one of the things that we wanted to talk about, just because it's a very exciting addition to the book inventory in our store, is the new book by Coco Knits called Sweater Workshop. That's Julie Weisenberger. And Julie is known for she's very interesting tailoring
and construction of how she constructs things.
Okay, so the light has been funny. So she does seamless, top-down, extremely beautifully tailored sweaters. That's kind of her thing. And so she has produced this Sweater Workshop book. And it's a beautiful book. Maybe I'll try and just flip through it slowly here with incredible patterns. This is called Lizzie, and I am casting that on in linen for sure. Have you seen that one?
Yeah.
So that's gonna be a beautiful little throw over for the summer. That's to knit with fingering weight yarn. So what's really nice is she has offered a way to. I think that's another cozy one called Emma. Okay, this is great just to throw over.
Yeah, that's one of the. Going into the grocery store and it's cold, I need to throw a little something over mine.
So what's nice about this book, and maybe I'll just show the table of contents, is she talks about her method, she talks about finding your flattering fit and style, and she talks a lot about different body types. She provides, I can't remember how many, I'm just trying to think how many different sweater styles there are in the book. I think there's at least 10 sweater patterns in here. And then she also offers links to a whole bunch of others through her website that you can access. She also has a whole special techniques section where she offers actual picture demonstrations of how to do all the techniques that are required for the sweaters in the books, which is really nice. You see those?
Yeah. And she does this actually on many of her patterns, because we've knit a lot of her patterns before she came out with the book. She has this bias bind off for necks, and so instead of having the steps, it's a bias bind off. It's fantastic. I've used it actually on many other garments that I've knit, and she has that as a tutorial on her website. So that's one that I really highly recommend. And so this is great because it's a whole book of her techniques.
Very tailored. So these are all additional sweater patterns that you can access through her website that incorporate her Coco Knits techniques as well. So it's a beautiful, beautiful book. I think it would help anybody who's interested in top-down sweater design and wearing. I mean, I love knitting.
They're so easy to wear.
Yeah, and they're easy to wear. They're easy to knit. I mean, I do like a fully pieced and seamed sweater as well for structure, and I think there are different sweaters called for different kinds of structure and different techniques, and different fabric, different sort of yarn fibers call for different techniques as well. But I find that her patterns they seem to be universally flattering, and what's nice is she really offers ways to modify for various body types. In fact,
and what I also like about her patterns is that you can knit it in a wool, or you can knit it like in a linen, in a loose gauge. So we've had patterns where it's a worsted weight gauge, but we've knitted in a lace weight or a fingering weight linen. So it gives you a completely different look for the same sweater, and you don't have to modify the pattern. You just have to get the gauge.
Yeah, and so
I really
she has
like
whole
that.
sections where she's talking about creating the illusion of shape and slim lines, and where to place stripes so that they work best for your body. If you're gonna add a colorwork stripe, where to put it so that it's not cutting you in half. She talks about texture and color work, using color for balance, so that if you want to be, have a little bit of if you don't want to be bottom heavy in the design of your sweater and in the color, then where to place your color. And
that's kind of nice, because then what that means is when you're looking at a pattern on Ravelry, you're saying, oh, I like this, but I would do this differently. This is giving you the tools to be able to do that, because if you're like me, you wouldn't really know how to fix that on your own. But by reading her book and getting those techniques, you're like, oh, okay, I'm going to try that. Yeah. Like I always say in French, il faut oser, you have to give it a try. So
highly
that's what she
recommend
grades.
that.
She helps you.
She's really good
do that.
for that, exactly. So I think there's 2 or 3 sweaters out of that one that we're going to try.
Yes, I know. We're like, oh, this one, right? Yeah. Every time we turn the page, okay, this one or this one. So we got to focus and think of that. So I think that kind of wraps up sort of all those major things. And we just have that little...
we're at 1 hour and 5 minutes.
Yeah, it's pretty good. We said we wanted to sort of keep it under an hour. Yeah. But one thing that we found really interesting lately was just talking to Sweet Georgia with our audio podcast and then visiting Christy Glass. Some of the questions that Felicia specifically asked us was sort of like, where do you think knitting is going, or like there's a lot of podcasts now, and so it sort of made us reflect on that.
On the topic of talking about technology in the knitting community.
In the community of knitting.
Just in the context of stores and in the context of how people connect with each other, because we talked about opening our store basically at the same time that Ravelry was really, coming on board and gaining popularity. Yeah. And so, we don't know what it's like to knit. I mean, it's not just about opening our store. When we started to knit, that Ravelry just was being created. Exactly. Right? So we don't actually know what it was like to knit before that. And not... having a place where you can go and access like-minded people in a discussion forum where you could share ideas, where you could share projects, where you could share designs. And so I think, the industry has just sort of continued building on that and building on that. And we were talking this morning about how knitters are, by their nature, inclined to want to share and discuss and
get feedback from each other and ask for advice, and we do that all the time, and we're so fortunate because we have each other. And I'll be at home in my pajamas knitting something, and I'll take a picture and I'll send it to Melissa, and I'll be like, so what do you think, should I keep this? She's like, well, send me another picture with this angle, you know. So we have each other to bounce those ideas off, and we use the technology because we're not together anymore. And then even in the store, we go in and we everyone working in the store, we ask each other for our feedback and advice.
So there's that community, and then there's community of customers, and
when they come in,
having your knitting circles on Friday, and
and that's why we created. We have our knit clinics Friday afternoon, which is a free drop-in, and we do our knit-alongs on Thursday nights. So, and even when we don't have those, just on a regular basis, people just love the idea of coming in to us. But most of you understand, if you have an LYS, you go there and you just ask questions, give feedback. I need a little bit of advice. What do you think? And that's such an important part of knitting. And as you mentioned, knitters, we're very social. We like to share. We like to see. We get excited about other people's projects.
And we were sort of reflecting on the fact that that's partly why we see knitting podcasts and audio podcasts, video podcasts gaining in popularity, and how, there's room for so many people to do it. It's not about, following the popular podcasters, or, there's only room for 10 or 12 or, 20 famous ones or well-known ones and nobody else should do it. I think it's just all about having as many people out there communicating as possible, and sharing, and it's like this hive mind that happens too, that you see with the podcasting, and how somebody will start talking about something they're doing, like the granny stripe blanket, and then somebody else will be that's it, people will see it, and that's it, and so it'll go through everybody, or the Mercury socks, or I'm trying to think of things
this one too that you saw,
that I saw
from the podcast.
And when I think about living, so I lived in Germany when my son was born, and was a stay-at-home mom for a couple of years, and I, and there were some times, and when it's quite isolating being at home. It can be, and if you don't have a community. And I was in a foreign country, and I had moved to a new city when he was a few months old, and didn't know anybody. And I have to say that if I had known about knitting podcasts, and if Ravelry had existed at that time, I think it would have changed the quality of my life, a little bit. I mean, it just would have been that way, a nice way of being able to connect with people.
And we were saying too, like when you watch a podcast, what's nice, it's not this like complete professional product. Like somebody will say, the lights just changed, or I wanted to do this but I was having trouble with this, or I have to let you go because of this. Exactly. And it's kind of nice because then you really get that sense that you're just hanging out with somebody and you're together, and
literally in someone's living room, right?
And in Quebec we have the tradition of les cercles des fermières. So it was like women who would get together to share their crafts, and they would weave, and they would sew, and they would spin, and they would knit and crochet. But they did it, so it was women in the country, and then we would have all these little different groups, and then they were joined through this big network. So it's almost like now through podcasting, and now through Instagram, and through blogs,
discussion forums and blogs, and when Ravelry started that, right? That it's just exactly. All this huge network for sharing, and I think the more the merrier.
Yeah, and it's, we have one of our customers, Annie, who started her podcast.
And one of our consultants as well,
Naomi started one, and
Knit the Sundown. I think
hers is that called that, and so it's kind of been really fun. And then when we go and see Christy, it's the first time we meet her, but we feel like
we know her a little bit. Watch your podcast, and in fact, when we meet a lot of the podcasters at Bowden Knitting Line, for example, or Rhinebeck, I feel like you know them already a little bit, so it makes it easier to break that.
So that's why we were sort of like when Felicia had asked this question of like, where's knitting going, or where do we see the next phase of knitting? And I think it's really bringing that local LYS feeling to the global
community, right?
And people from around the world. And actually, one thing where we should feature maybe or take a picture for our next podcast is we bought a big map. So we bought a map of the world, and we put pins on all the places where we've sent web orders to. And every time we send a web order, if it's outside of Canada, we send a personal email because there's no tracking. So it lets them know that the order's gone. So it was amazing to look at this map and to see, oh my goodness, all the different countries where we've sent things to, and then also through the podcast when people make comments and they say,
and it's just seeing what that reach is like. I mean, people in South Africa, people in Sweden, people in
Iceland, people in England, Scotland.
It's incredible.
It is, and you're
a magical thing.
Oh my God! You're in Iceland and you're listening to us, or South Africa, or. Yeah. It's really, it's been really amazing, and I think that's a really. It's very interesting to see how knitters just find their community, and especially if you're in an area where you don't have an LYS or it's a little bit further from you, you can have that feeling, and you can
I think that's a big void that it's filling for people. For most people don't have an LYS in their neighborhood. Most people who knit and who love the craft or crochet do not have a knitting group that they can go to every week, and so I think this just provides a way of connecting with like-minded, creative, generous people,
It does, and I'm just even thinking, like, when we're talking about the LYS and the opinion, asking people opinions, we get emails sometimes, and, I want to place an online order, and I want to do this pattern, and I'm thinking of these colors. What do you think? I was, either thinking of these ones or those ones, so we take a picture of them together, and we kind of give our opinion of, like, well, this will tend more towards this, or this will tend more towards that. And it's really nice. So it's still able to get that local feeling, but through the bigger... Well, so we just
so that's our 2 cents on the whole podcasting future of knitting communities, and
also why we decided to start this. Right? I think that's because we were sort of saying like, we threw ourselves in there into the web of podcasting, and we're like, well, why are we doing this? What's important to us throughout this?
Exactly,
and we have such an amazing. We've benefited so much
from having a community or creating a community or having,
benefiting from another community and then creating our own community that we said, that's a really important part of knitting, and we want to help continue that and have people feel that as well. So that was sort of our little, we said not too philosophical, but a reflection on what we think about the knitting community and where it's going. And that was thanks to Felicia, who from Sweet Georgia Yarns,
asked us some thoughtful questions.
Who got us to think about that.
So thank you all for joining our little community here, and
in
if
our
you've
living
got
room.
a podcast out there, please let us know about it. We'd love to check it out and
share it with our network.
Yes, exactly. So I think that's just a great way for us all to stay connected.
Yeah. So just as a little reminder, don't forget, if you're participating in the High Pines Cowl, it's not too late. You can still participate
because it's a pretty quick knit.
It is, and it's in store for the next 2 weeks where people can come into our store and knit, but it's until March 30th, so you still have some time to participate in that. So don't forget to post your pictures, because
that Hedgehog Fibers Invisible Project bag is fabulous.
It is,
and
totally
you want to win it. Right?
Great. So thank you so much for tuning in, and I guess our next one might be either split screen, or you're coming to Montreal too at the end of March.
Yes, so maybe we'll try and do it then.
Yeah, so we'll try to get one.
24th, 25th.
We'll try to get another one in there.
Yeah.
Good.
Okay.
Thank you so much for tuning in.
Thank
Ciao,
you,
ciao.
everybody.
We'll see you next time.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye-bye.